Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about making yourself happy. So let's get into it. So the question in question was posted on a very old video that I made years ago called "You Can't Make Everyone Happy." And the basics of that video is to understand that you can, as it's like another flavor of when I say that you can never be fast enough. The problem is that the software development process is always down to one of two things, and that is speed and quality. You always have to pick. And if you pick incorrectly and you do the thing that you emotionally usually want, especially when you're a junior, where you try to ship as fast as possible because your stakeholder is putting expectations on you and you try to meet them, or you try to impress people and the software suffers due to it, you're actually just short term making people happy, and then they're going to be angry at you later when the system is always shit. And that is a maturity thing that is very difficult. It's actually in a similar way the same sort of lesson a parent has to learn about their first kid, where in the beginning, with your first kid, a lot of parents like spoil their kids or like do everything for them, and they only later realize that actually in order for your child to be raised in a healthy way, you sometimes have to be the bad guy, because discipline does have a use. So the question was, how do you change how to make others happy, and how do you make yourself happy? Well, this is one of those borderline questions again that I'm gonna have to spin into something programming related, because I don't know. Every now and then I get someone who asks me a question where it feels like more like this is the sort of thing a therapist might talk to you about. But I can play that role and put a programming flavor on it for now, even though I'm vastly underqualified. So when it comes to making yourself happy in this, like as a software developer, usually the software developer's life looks very similar in terms of like professional work environments and like the sort of expectations that you have. That's the beautiful part about my little channel here. The reason I would like to believe, at the very least, why it resonates with people is because the people who are watching are usually people who are actually seeing these things. That's the thing that is common for us. Like, you do sort of the same things and you face the same sort of questions and challenges and so forth. And when you know that, it's actually very nice, because the people who are usually going through their career as software developers in the most smooth fashion have a few things, few key things in their life that makes that a pleasant experience, and that's the thing that I can give you. So the first thing in order to make yourself happy is to realize that happiness is subjective. What makes you happy? And it's actually very funny, because the perception of happiness is a completely mental state. It is something where you can be happy for many reasons in many different contexts. It's actually the best thing to describe it is that, have you ever considered that the happiness a like Olympic athlete who wins like the Olympics feels is actually probably equal to that of someone who is, say, paralyzed and wins the Paralympics or something like that, or gets from being in a wheelchair to being able to walk again. So you, as the observer, you look at these things as different, like different levels of value, quality, etc., etc. But if you think about it from just pure joy, there are many things that would make a person who you would perceive to be probably a bit unhappy at many times, to feel a level of happiness that is way, way, way over what anybody who has done things that you might find yourself to be very desirable. And when you get to that realization, you realize that you can live a very happy or contentful life, because this is the other part that I think is more interesting, regardless of where you are, regardless of who you are, and regardless of how much money you make. Because money does not equal happiness. It enables you to do a lot of stuff, but that's the fundamental thing. Happiness is a mental state. And so I think it was it Socrates who said that the key to happiness is to be happy with less. And that is exactly what it comes down to. You have to realize that a lot of the pain and anguish that you feel is not due to that the world is unfair or there's something bad going on. It is your perception of what you should be doing, or you should have the right to, or you should and should, etc., etc. Your expectations are the thing that determines most of your personal happiness. And so if we tie that to the second thing, which is to be content, which I think is more important, because happiness is a moving target. I like to tell people who are my friends and so forth that, if you buy a new television, it will be maybe a few months before you take that thing for granted. And then if you don't have the personal, secure, I'm not gonna call it security, but the personal satisfaction of being happy with your life situation, you might do the thing which basically our entire economy is based on, and buy something again. Not because you need a new television, but because you want it, and because you have a hole to fill in your chest. So you buy it, and then you repeat that process. It basically is the same thing as a drug. It's a different sort of drug, but it is the same thing. Being addicted to shopping and consuming and stuff like that because you have no you're not satisfied as you are. And that is the thing that is more important. Are you satisfied with your life? And if you don't know why you're not satisfied, personal reflection is required, because that is, in my opinion, that is to get to know yourself and understand and truly understand yourself, and pursuing the things that actually matter is the key to happiness, at least in my opinion, because it comes down to understanding that, as I was saying the first part, you could be happy being a beggar on the streets and still live a very fulfilling life. It comes down to a perspective. That is what it really is about. And so my suggestion to people is that to make yourself happy as a software developer, you have to realize that the expectations that are being put on you as a software developer are always going to be there. There's always going to be incompetent people around you who create weird situations where they hold you responsible for a deadline that they caused, or there's a shitty system and they blame you who started a week ago for that the system is bad and that you're not shipping on time when you had nothing to do with it. All these unfairities and all these sorts of influences that has an effect on your emotional state, all these things will always be there. But at the end of the day, the thing that matters is, do you have a good time when you do the things that matter to you? Because when you get to that emotional security level, where I like to say, when you become a true senior software developer, it does not matter. Guys, I've been in many conversations with stakeholders they are to the point where it is embarrassing for me to sit and talk to them, because they literally, I cannot even speak normal English or in technical matters to them. They have a higher title than I have, and they don't understand what I'm saying. I could say the same thing to a junior software developer in my team, and he would immediately understand what I'm talking about. But this person, I have no other choice than to deal with this person. And I don't get annoyed at that person, because my expectations is not that this person should, they're making all this money and why are they so incompetent, etc. I have no expectations on their performance, because I'm here as a software developer to fix this problem, and I'm dealing with an incompetent person. It's just another problem. It's no different from doing a code review. And I can feel that level of security because I have my own life in order. It's not perfect by any means, but I have all the things that I need to make myself happy. And I'm not in a rush to get onto somebody else and say, on their case, and say, why are you so incompetent? Why are you causing all these issues and so forth? Because I don't care if they create problems for me, because I'm getting paid regardless of if they do or not. And that's the real key to it. That's why I believe that the best thing for a software developer is to understand that personal strength is the key to happiness. If you are a solid emotionally stable software developer. In other words, you feel good about yourself, you take care of your body, your mind, you save money, like you have everything kind of covered on your own end, and you have the raw coding skills and social skills to basically move around in the industry as you feel is appropriate for whatever you're trying to do. You're not really nervous about fucking up or nervous about telling people the truth about a deadline or things like that. That's the state of tranquility, or the content state. You are now a solid software developer who, I mean, how do you make such a person stressed? It doesn't, I can't even imagine it. So what I want you to take away from this is that in order to make yourself happy as a software developer, it's actually very easy. You have to get to a point in your life where you realize that happiness is down to your mental state. And you can create that mental state by understanding the things that make you nervous, stressed, etc., etc., and realize that in order for you to not feel that way anymore, you have to grow as a person to the point where you feel content with whatever happens. It's in a sense, there's a philosophical branch called Stoicism, or like being stoic. It's a similar thing to that, basically, where you don't really care what happens next, because you know that regardless of what happens next, you are going to be able to deal with it. And when you do that in a work environment, it's actually the biggest tip that I give to my coworkers who are still get very annoyed when people are incompetent, or the company is making bad decisions, or we're hiring bad people, and just all that stuff. And I kind of go, why are you so upset? The whole reason why you are here is to fix all these problems. And the fact that the company is hiring bad software developers or so forth, it really isn't a problem for you. It's actually a problem for the company. And instead of trying to force the world to be something that it's not, because unfortunately for you and everybody else, we're not just made up of very competent, well-adjusted people who have the desire to make the world a better place. There's more people than that. The same thing for you is to keep your calm, and I've told my coworkers that as well. Keep your calm, because if you lose your cool, it's more likely that you're going to be labeled a problem and get fired, and that's going to just increase your frustration even further. And the second thing is, address each issue as it comes, because you know that you're going to be able to deal with all of it. The problem is not that you can't fix all these problems. It is that you expect things that is not realistic. And it is not realistic to just hire only competent people in a really large organization, or agree with your manager on everything, or so forth, or never get to be forced into a position where you have to meet a sharp deadline and so forth. All of these things are given things that are going to happen, and the key is to figure out how to feel as stable and calm as a rock in a storm, and then just let the storm pass. That is the key, at least what I think. Have a great day.